Throughout history and across various cultures, stories of angels have always captivated human imagination. These celestial beings, radiant and powerful, are often seen as messengers and servants of God. They are depicted as protectors, guardians, and warriors fighting for the forces of light. But what happens when these beings, endowed with divine strength and wisdom, turn against the very God who created them? When pride, ambition, and disobedience lead them astray, their downfall is both dramatic and devastating. In today's video, we're diving into the mysterious and dark tales of 4 of the most infamous fallen angels: Azazel, Beelzebub, Semyaza, and the infamous Lucifer. These angels, who once stood in the presence of God, rebelled and were cast out of heaven. Their stories are not just about rebellion, but they also offer lessons on the dangers of pride, temptation, and disobedience. Each of these fallen angels has a unique story and played a pivotal role in shaping humanity's understanding of good and evil. But before we embark on this journey, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss a deep dive into the hidden stories of biblical lore. Let's get started. Angels and their nature. Angels, according to the Bible and many other religious texts, are not simply beings of light. They are spiritual warriors, messengers, and servants of the divine, created to fulfill God's will. They are often depicted as beings with immense power and beauty, standing in the very presence of God. Their primary role is to worship God, deliver His messages to humanity, and protect the faithful from the forces of darkness. In the Bible, angels frequently appear to deliver significant messages, such as the angel Gabriel announcing the birth of Jesus to Mary. They also act as defenders, like the angel Michael, leading heavenly armies in spiritual battles. Throughout the scriptures, angels are seen as intermediaries between God and humanity, guiding, protecting, and sometimes even executing divine judgment. But not all angels remained faithful. Free will, a gift that allowed angels to choose their own path, became the very tool of their downfall. Among the ranks of angels, some were led astray by pride, envy, and ambition. These angels rebelled against the divine order, choosing to carve their own path rather than serve their Creator. This rebellion was catastrophic, leading to their expulsion from heaven and their transformation into the beings we now know as fallen angels. The Bible and other religious texts, such as the Book of Enoch, provide accounts of these fallen angels, each of whom played a role in corrupting humanity and bringing sin into the world. Let's begin by looking at the story of Azazel, one of the most notorious of these rebellious angels. Azazel's story is one that intertwines with the early history of humanity. According to the Book of Enoch, Azazel was one of the Watchers, a group of angels who were sent by God to watch over humanity during its early days. Their role was to guide and protect, ensuring that humanity grew in wisdom and stayed on the path of righteousness. But instead of upholding their divine duties, the Watchers, led by Azazel, fell into corruption. Azazel's name, which can be interpreted as the one whom God strengthens, is ironic considering his role in leading humanity astray. He is often described as a warrior angel, skilled in the arts of battle. But his greatest sin wasn't just rebellion, it was the forbidden knowledge he imparted to mankind. Azazel is credited with teaching humans the art of warfare, showing them how to forge weapons such as swords, shields, and armor. These tools of violence introduced bloodshed and conflict into the world. But Azazel's influence didn't stop there. He also taught women the arts of seduction, including how to beautify themselves with makeup, jewelry, and ornaments. These teachings led to a rise in vanity, lust, and idolatry, corrupting the purity that once existed among men and women. The Book of Enoch describes Azazel's teachings in chilling detail, noting the direct connection between his influence and the moral decay of humanity. And Azazel taught men to make swords and knives, and shields and breastplates, and made known to them the metals of the earth and the art of working with them, and the beautifying of the eyelids. Enoch 8:1-2. Because of these transgressions, God held Azazel accountable for the violence and vanity he had introduced into the world. As a punishment, the archangel Raphael was ordered to bind Azazel and cast him into the wilderness, where he would remain imprisoned until the day of judgment. This punishment symbolized the isolation and darkness that awaited those who rebelled against God's divine will. The Book of Enoch vividly describes Azazel's fate. Bind Azazel hand and foot, and cast him into the darkness, and make an opening in the desert which is in Dudale, and cast him therein. Enoch 10:4-6. In addition to this, Azazel is also mentioned in the Bible, specifically in the book of Leviticus, where he is symbolically associated with the scapegoat on the Day of Atonement. On this holiest day for the Jewish people, a goat would be sent into the wilderness, bearing the sins of Israel, and it was believed that the goat carried these sins to Azazel. This ritual, described in Leviticus 16, underscores the association of Azazel with sin, corruption, and separation from God. The scapegoat represented the physical removal of sin from the community, sending it into the desert where Azazel resided, symbolizing the separation between the holy and the profane. Azazel's story serves as a stark warning about the dangers of pride, vanity, and the misuse of power. His teachings led to the corruption of both men and women, and his punishment, imprisonment in eternal darkness, reminds us of the consequences that come from turning away from the light. Beelzebub. Next, we turn to Beelzebub, also known as the Lord of the Flies. His name is associated with decay, disease, and death. In ancient Jewish tradition, Beelzebub was revered by the Philistines, an enemy people of Israel. He was worshipped in the city of Ekron, where it was believed that he had the power to both cause and cure plagues, diseases, and pestilences. To the Philistines, Beelzebub was a powerful god, but to the Israelites, he was nothing more than a demonic entity who led people away from the true God. The Bible mentions Beelzebub in the book of Samuel, where the Philistines experience a series of devastating plagues. Believing that these plagues were caused by the Ark of the Covenant, which had been captured from the Israelites, the Philistines turned to Beelzebub in desperation, offering sacrifices to appease him and end their suffering. But instead of curing the plagues, their situation worsened. In the New Testament, Beelzebub's role as a powerful fallen angel is further emphasized. He is identified as a prince of demons, and the Pharisees accused Jesus of driving out demons by the power of Beelzebub. Jesus, of course, rebukes this claim, pointing out the absurdity of Satan casting out Satan. If Satan drives out Satan, he is divided against himself. How then can his kingdom stand? Matthew 12:25-26. Beelzebub, in Christian tradition, came to be seen as one of the most powerful demons in Satan's hierarchy. His title as Lord of the Flies is often associated with death, filth, and corruption, further cementing his connection to disease and decay. In some interpretations, his influence over pestilence represents the spiritual decay that comes from worshiping false gods and turning away from the truth. Beelzebub's story, much like Azazel's, serves as a reminder of the consequences of idolatry and the dangers of turning to false gods in times of crisis. His association with disease and death highlights the spiritual and physical decay that occurs when humanity strays from God's light. Semyaza. Of all the fallen angels, Semyaza holds a particularly significant place in the lore surrounding the Watchers. According to the Book of Enoch, Semyaza was the leader of the Watchers, the angels tasked with observing and guiding humanity. However, Semyaza and his fellow Watchers became consumed by their desires, particularly their attraction to human women. This temptation would lead to their rebellion against divine law and the corruption of humanity. Semyaza's name, which means he who sees God, reflects his high standing among the angels before his fall. As the leader of the Watchers, Semyaza was responsible for maintaining divine order on earth. However, his growing fascination with human women caused him to lose sight of his sacred duties. His desire to take human wives violated one of the most fundamental laws governing angels. They were not to intermingle with the mortal realm in such a way. In the Book of Enoch, Semyaza is portrayed as the hesitant leader of the rebellion. He feared the consequences of defying God, yet he was unable to resist his desires. Before leading the Watchers into sin, he expressed his doubts, saying, "I fear that you may not want to carry out this action, and I alone will bear the great sin." Enoch 6:3. But despite his initial reluctance, Semyaza and the other Watchers made a pact. They swore an oath, binding themselves under a curse to follow through with their plan. Together, they descended to Mount Hermon, where they took wives from the daughters of men. This unholy union between angels and humans gave birth to the Nephilim, a race of giants who wreaked havoc on the earth. The Nephilim, described in the Bible as mighty men of old, were known for their strength and size, but their presence led to widespread corruption. They devoured the resources of the earth, and their violent actions brought chaos and destruction. The Book of Enoch provides a vivid account of the Nephilim's devastating impact. The giants devoured the works of men until men could no longer sustain them. Then the giants turned against men to devour them. Enoch 7 verse 3-6. The world, once a place of peace and balance, became overrun by violence, greed, and sin. The actions of Semyaza and the Watchers had introduced chaos on a massive scale, and God's creation was now in disarray. As punishment for their transgressions, God decreed that the Watchers would be bound in the abyss, a dark and desolate place of torment where they would remain until the day of judgment. The Nephilim, too, would face destruction, with the Great Flood wiping out much of their legacy. However, the Watchers' children did not entirely vanish. Some of their descendants are said to have survived and became the evil spirits that roam the world, seeking to corrupt and possess. Semyaza's downfall highlights the dangers of lust, perverted wisdom, and rebellion. His story shows that even those who are closest to the divine can fall prey to temptation, leading to catastrophic consequences. The Watcher's legacy serves as a warning about the destructive power of unrestrained desires and the rebellion against divine law. Lucifer. Of all the fallen angels, none is as well known or as deeply feared as Lucifer. Once regarded as the most beautiful and powerful of all angels, Lucifer's fall from grace is perhaps the most dramatic in the spiritual history of creation. His very name, Light-bearer, reflects the brilliance and majesty he once possessed before his rebellion. As the most exalted of angels, Lucifer was given tremendous responsibility, serving as a leader among the celestial beings, guiding others in their worship of God. But Lucifer's fall was driven by the oldest sin, pride. Despite his exalted position, Lucifer grew discontent. Instead of accepting his role as a servant of God, he desired to be more. He believed that his beauty, power, and wisdom made him equal to, or perhaps even greater than, God himself. It is in the book of Isaiah that we find the clearest expression of Lucifer's ambitions. You said in your heart, I will ascend to the heavens. I will raise my throne above the stars of God. I will sit enthroned on the Mount of Assembly, on the utmost heights of Mount Zaphon. I will ascend above the tops of the clouds. I will make myself like the Most High. Isaiah 14:13-14. This desire to ascend above God was the ultimate act of rebellion. Lucifer, in his pride, could no longer serve. He wanted to rule, and so he rallied a third of the angels in heaven to join him in his rebellion against God's authority. This act led to a celestial war, a cosmic battle between the forces of good, led by Michael the archangel, and the rebellious forces of Lucifer. The book of Revelation gives a vivid description of this heavenly conflict. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back. But he was not strong enough, and they lost their place in heaven. The great dragon was hurled down, that ancient serpent called the devil or Satan, who leads the whole world astray. He was hurled to the earth, and his angels with him. Revelation 12 verse 7-9. Lucifer's defeat in this celestial war marked his transformation into Satan, the adversary. No longer a being of light, he became the ruler of darkness, cast down to earth along with the angels who followed him. His name, once synonymous with brilliance and glory, became synonymous with deception, temptation, and evil. From this point forward, Satan's mission was clear: to lead humanity astray, to corrupt God's creation, and to wage an eternal war against the divine order. Lucifer's fall is not only a story of rebellion, it's a reflection of the dangers of unchecked ambition. In Christian tradition, pride is considered the most dangerous of the 7 deadly sins, precisely because it can blind even the most exalted beings to their place in the universe. Lucifer's story serves as a reminder that power, beauty, and wisdom can become sources of destruction when not tempered with humility and obedience. As Satan, Lucifer's role shifted from celestial leader to the tempter and the accuser. In the Gospel of John, Jesus refers to Satan as the father of lies. John 8:44. a being who distorts truth to lead people away from God. In 2 Corinthians 4:4, Satan is called the god of this age, highlighting his power to blind people to the truth of the gospel. He is also depicted as a roaring lion, seeking those he can devour, 1 Peter 5:8, and as the deceiver of nations in Revelation. Yet, despite his power and influence, Lucifer's ultimate defeat is assured. The Bible prophesies that on the day of judgment, Satan and his followers will be cast into the lake of fire, where they will face eternal punishment. Revelation 20 verse 10. Lucifer's story, then, is not just a tale of rebellion and destruction, but also one of hope, the hope that good will ultimately triumph over evil. In modern theology, the story of Lucifer's fall has been interpreted in many ways. Some see it as a metaphor for the dangers of unchecked ambition, while others view it as a literal account of the cosmic struggle between good and evil. Regardless of interpretation, the story of Lucifer serves as a powerful reminder that no one, no matter how exalted, is immune to the temptations of pride and the consequences of rebellion. The role of fallen angels in modern theology. The stories of fallen angels like Azazel, Beelzebub, Semyaza, and Lucifer are not just relics of ancient texts. They continue to influence modern religious thought, serving as symbols of the eternal struggle between good and evil, light and darkness. In many ways, these fallen angels represent the darker aspects of human nature, the capacity for pride, rebellion, and corruption that exists within all of us. In contemporary Christian theology, fallen angels are often seen as agents of temptation. They are believed to play an active role in trying to lead humanity away from God, using deception, pride, and fear to weaken faith. This understanding of fallen angels helps explain the existence of evil in the world, offering a theological framework for understanding suffering, sin, and the trials that believers face. The concept of spiritual warfare, the idea that Christians are engaged in an ongoing battle against the forces of darkness, is central to this view. Fallen angels, led by Satan, are seen as the forces that Christians must resist through faith, prayer, and adherence to God's commandments. The Apostle Paul writes about this struggle in his letter to the Ephesians, urging believers to put on the armor of God to stand against the schemes of the devil. Ephesians 6:11-12. In many ways, the stories of these fallen angels have shaped the way modern Christians view the nature of evil. They serve as a reminder that evil is not just an abstract concept, but a force that actively seeks to undermine the divine order. By understanding the stories of these angels, believers can gain insight into the nature of temptation and the importance of remaining steadfast in their faith. Beyond Christianity, the stories of fallen angels have also influenced other religious and spiritual traditions. In Islam, for example, the figure of Iblis, who is often equated with Lucifer, plays a similar role as a tempter and deceiver, leading humans away from the path of righteousness. In Jewish mysticism, fallen angels are sometimes associated with the Qliphoth, the impure spiritual forces that oppose the divine. Even in popular culture, the concept of fallen angels continues to resonate. From literature and film to music and art, the image of the angel who defies God has become a powerful symbol of rebellion, temptation, and the struggle between good and evil. Whether viewed through a religious or secular lens, these stories continue to captivate the human imagination, offering insights into the complexities of free will, morality, and the nature of divine justice. Lucifer's deeper impact. Lucifer's story doesn't just represent an isolated act of rebellion, it reflects the eternal struggle between pride and humility, a lesson that resonates across many religious and philosophical traditions. His fall from grace is a reminder that even those who are closest to God, those who shine the brightest, can still fall into darkness if they let their desire for power consume them. But what makes Lucifer's story so compelling is that it transcends time. In modern Christianity, Lucifer has become the archetype of evil. His transformation into Satan is symbolic of how good can be corrupted, and it's a warning to everyone that no one is immune to temptation. We all have a bit of Lucifer within us when we allow pride to take over. In this sense, Lucifer's role as Satan is not just about being the adversary to God, it's about being the adversary within ourselves. Pride is often described as the root of all sin because it distorts our view of who we are in relation to God. Lucifer's decision to exalt himself above the Most High was an act of self-deception, thinking that he could take the place of the Creator. This lesson is as relevant today as it was in the beginning of time. It reminds us of the importance of humility, to understand our place in the grand design of the universe. Modern interpretations of Lucifer's fall often highlight the duality of his character. He was both beautiful and destructive. This paradox is seen throughout history in many mythologies and belief systems. For example, in Greek mythology, the figure of Prometheus bears some resemblance to Lucifer. Prometheus, like Lucifer, defied the gods to bring knowledge, fire to humanity, and was punished for it. In both cases, their acts of rebellion were based on a desire to elevate themselves or others, but their methods and intentions led to suffering. Lucifer's role as the tempter in the Garden of Eden further solidified his place as the ultimate deceiver. He entices Eve with the promise of godlike knowledge, subtly encouraging her to break God's command. This moment is critical in both Christian and Jewish thought because it marks the entry of sin into the world, often referred to as the fall of man. This pivotal event established the framework for Christian theology, in which humans, like Lucifer, must grapple with the consequences of free will. Lucifer's legacy also extends to secular culture. From John Milton's Paradise Lost to modern film and literature, Lucifer's rebellion against God has been a source of fascination and artistic exploration. His character is often depicted as tragic, embodying both the allure of independence and the catastrophic consequences of unchecked ambition. In Paradise Lost, Milton gives Lucifer the famous line, "Better to reign in hell than serve in heaven." This phrase reflects Lucifer's mentality. He would rather be free and in control, even in damnation, than be subservient to a higher power. But that statement also provides a profound lesson for us today. It warns against the desire for autonomy at the expense of what is right and good. Lucifer's defiance is not just about rebellion. It is about rejecting the natural order of things, a decision that leads to his eternal isolation and torment. This eternal consequence of self-imposed exile serves as a stark reminder that rejecting divine guidance leads not to freedom, but to bondage. The ongoing influence of fallen angels in theology. Even after their fall, Azazel, Beelzebub, Semyaza, and Lucifer continue to exert influence over the human spiritual journey. For centuries, scholars, theologians, and religious leaders have debated their roles in shaping the moral struggles of humanity. Many of the lessons derived from their stories are woven into the fabric of contemporary religious practice, shaping both Christian and Jewish thought. In Christianity, the existence of fallen angels provides an explanation for the presence of evil in a world created by a benevolent God. They are seen as the root of many of the spiritual battles that humans face, with their rebellion reflecting the constant tension between good and evil. In the Epistle of James, Christians are warned of the dangers of temptation and are reminded to resist the devil, and he will flee from you. James 4:7. This reflects the belief that Satan and his fallen angels are constantly working to lead believers away from the path of righteousness. Spiritual warfare is a central theme in modern Christian thought. The concept suggests that believers are not just dealing with earthly struggles, but are also part of a larger cosmic battle between God's angels and the fallen ones. In this framework, fallen angels, especially Lucifer, are actively trying to corrupt souls through temptation, fear, and deception. This battle, according to Christian theology, will only end when God finally defeats Satan at the end of time, casting him and his followers into the lake of fire. In Judaism, the stories of the fallen angels, particularly those from apocryphal texts like the Book of Enoch, offer explanations for the introduction of evil and human corruption. The Watchers, led by Semyaza, taught forbidden knowledge to mankind, contributing to the moral decay that led to the Great Flood. In this sense, fallen angels are not just symbols of disobedience, but also of the dangers of forbidden knowledge, knowledge that can corrupt when used without divine permission. Azazel's role in Jewish tradition is particularly significant. The Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur, ritual involving the scapegoat, illustrates the separation of sin from the community, sending it into the wilderness where Azazel is believed to reside. This powerful metaphor has been a lasting symbol of the need to atone for wrongdoing, casting away sin and impurity from the sacred community. Though the identity of Azazel is debated, whether he is a place, a demon, or a fallen angel, his association with sin continues to influence Jewish thought. Lessons for modern life. While these stories of fallen angels may seem distant or mythological, the lessons they offer are more relevant than ever. In an age where self-promotion and ambition are often celebrated, the tales of Lucifer, Azazel, Semyaza, and Beelzebub provide a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked pride and the pursuit of power. In a world where material wealth, status, and control are often seen as the ultimate goals, these fallen angels stand as warnings about the consequences of elevating oneself above others, or even above God. The constant temptation to place ourselves at the center of the universe, much like Lucifer did, is a struggle faced by everyone. Whether in personal relationships, careers, or spiritual lives, the challenge remains the same. Will we choose to serve, or will we seek to rule? The fallen angels show us the perils of choosing the latter. Power without humility becomes destructive, both to ourselves and to those around us. Moreover, the stories of the fallen angels teach us the importance of accountability. Each of these angels, despite their power and beauty, faced consequences for their actions. They remind us that no one is above the law, whether divine or human. Every action we take has consequences, and we must always consider the moral and ethical weight of our decisions. In modern life, these stories encourage us to remain grounded in humility, recognizing that no matter how much success or knowledge we acquire, we are still subject to a higher power. This mindset not only helps maintain perspective, but also fosters a sense of responsibility to others. Lucifer's fall teaches us that rebellion for rebellion's sake, seeking to throw off all constraints, leads not to freedom, but to a new form of enslavement. Conclusion and reflections. In closing, the stories of Azazel, Beelzebub, Semyon, and Lucifer serve as timeless reminders of the cosmic struggle between good and evil. They challenge us to reflect on our own lives, urging us to resist the temptations of pride, power, and rebellion. These fallen angels, who once stood in the presence of God, now serve as symbols of what can happen when we turn away from the divine order. Their stories are not just tales of ancient rebellion. They are parables that speak to the human condition. They remind us of the importance of humility, obedience, and the willingness to serve rather than rule. They teach us that while we all have free will, the choices we make define our path, leading us either toward the light or into the darkness. As we continue our own spiritual journeys, may the lessons of these fallen angels guide us, helping us to resist temptation and remain faithful to the divine plan. And may we always remember the value of humility and the dangers of pride. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the stories of the fallen angels. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Be sure to hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Let us know which fallen angel's story resonated with you the most, or if there are other biblical figures you'd like us to explore next.